Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Rear Admiral Robert Plath. We warmly welcome the family of leading seamen William, Leonard, Edward, Danswan, who are watching the live stream of this evening's ceremony. His story will be told shortly. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Mr Jonathan Knight, Deputy Director, Indo-Pacific, Ministry of Defence, United Kingdom, and the delegation representing the Royal Australian Navy's Clearance Diving Association reunion, and Mr Frederick Wasson, President of the Robe Returned and Services League sub-branch, accompanied by Secretary Miss Marcia Denning, and the delegation comprised of the finalists for the Australian Army's Hazard Award, where each year recognises the most outstanding junior leader in each of the Royal Australian Regiment battalions. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of the Calderwood Christian School from Albion Park, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to able seaman William Leonard Edward Danswan. William Danswan was born on the 16th of March 1918 in Temora, New South Wales, the second eldest of three sons born to Leonard and Lillian Danswan. He grew up in the railway town of Junee and received his education at the local public school while his father worked as an engine driver on the railway. In 1934, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy for a period of 12 years. He was initially posted to the Naval Training Base HMAS Cerberus in Victoria, where he completed a year's recruit training. On completion of his training, he joined HMAS Canberra. During this time, Canberra visited ports in New Zealand and on the China Station while undertaking routine peacetime cruising. In 1937, Danswan was rated able seaman as he continued service in Canberra. In 1939, he married Margaret Dean in the Sydney suburb of Woollahra. The following year, they had their first child, a daughter named Gloria. With Australia now at war, Canberra was engaged in patrolling and escorting duties in Australian waters and in the Tasman Sea. In mid-1940, Canberra commenced duties in the Indian Ocean, tasked with escorting convoys from Fremantle to Colombo and on to Cape Town. In July, she was involved in an unsuccessful search for the German raider Atlantis, which was thought to be operating on the shipping routes between Africa, India and the Malay states. In November 1940, Canberra rescued 22 survivors of the British merchant steamer Port Brisbane, which had been sunk in the Indian Ocean by an enemy raider. This was followed by an unsuccessful search for the ship believed to have attacked the Port Brisbane, the German raider Penguin, which was en route to Antarctica after laying sea mines in multiple Australian sea lanes. In February 1941, as Canberra continued her search for the enemy raiders, Danswan failed a medical exam as a result of poor eyesight and was to be discharged. He appealed this decision, however, and was returned for home service. Danswan was sent to Western Australia, where he spent a month at the training base HMAS Lewin before returning to Cerberus for a further 3 weeks of training. In April 1941, some 2 months after being found unfit for overseas service, Danswan was sent to Adelaide, where he joined the shore establishment HMAS Torrens. There, he became a part of a render mine safe party responsible for disarming and disposing of sea mines washed ashore on beaches around Adelaide. The mines were deadly weapons, measuring around 1 metre in diameter and containing up to 300 kilograms of high explosives. On the 13th of July 1941, able seaman Danswan and able seaman Thomas Todd were sent with their commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Arthur Greening, to inspect a mine found floating off the coast of Southend by a local fisherman. The mine was thought to be one of those laid by the German raider Penguin a year earlier. Danswan, Todd and Greening used the fishing vessel and towed the mine to shore at Beachport so they could examine it. Once ashore, closer inspection of the mine showed that it was armed, making any attempt to defuse it extremely risky. They made the decision to detonate the mine instead and return the next day to tow it a mile up the beach. Once in a safe location, they attached a demolition charge which failed to detonate as intended. On inspection, they found the waves crashing on shore had broken the connection between the detonator leads of the counter-mine charge and the end of the cable. Danswan and Todd retrieved a new detonator, and as they were approaching the mine to attach it, the mine exploded, killing both instantly. A Naval Board of Inquiry later concluded that an incoming wave may have shifted the mine, crushing one of its lower horns and causing it to detonate. William Danswan and Thomas Todd were the first Australian servicemen to die on home soil as a result of enemy action. Danswan was buried at Beachport on the 16th of July 1941. His remains were later exhumed and taken to his hometown of Junee. His funeral was held at St Luke's Church before he was reburied in the local cemetery. Abel Seaman William Danswan was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Abel Seaman William Leonard Edward Danswan, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusty hulk is their tombstone, fast on the ocean bed. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor their years condemn. The going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.